All right, we thank you again for staying with us on the program TMI as we move to major talking point on the show. I have with me in the studio a civil society activist, Barrister St. Michael's Gualgie. Barrister Michaels, many thanks for joining us on the program.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for coming. Okay, regional security, emergence of regional security outfit seems to be a major talking point, and some say this is not unconnected with the breakdown of law and order, the failings of security arrangements in the country. Of course, it's the Southeast governors that say, they said within the shortest possible time, they too will be announcing their own regional security outfit. In the Southwest, which seems to have taken the lead, legal framework is being provided for that to come into effect. Shege Nafasa came out from Kaduna State, and then there was reactions even from the north on it. These and lots more we'll be talking about in this segment of the show. Barrister St. Michaels, many thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's
okay, the seeming emergence now of regional security network, is it too late or too early?
Not at all. I believe it's even long overdue, considering the fact that the security challenges we have in our country today has become so overwhelming to the extent that Boko Haram is having a free reign in the northeastern part of Nigeria, as well as the Fulani herdsmen. They are on a free rampage in the whole part of the country. Kidnapping has become very, very alarming, to the extent that people are now being kidnapped even for a pot of soup. I believe that the time has come for all the players in this federal union to look at our federal components, look at the federal architecture, okay, which is highly defective, because all of these are a manifestations of the failing federal architecture, which is deliberately skewed, to the center. All the powers of the federal union are concentrated at the center, to the extent that the subnational government are weak, to actually take care of their own in terms of security, in terms of providing, for the security and welfare of their geographical location. I sincerely want to advocate for a security conference where all the players will come together critically discuss with a view to rekitting and rejigging the federal security architecture using the tools of subsidiarity, okay, and constitutionalism. Okay. Otherwise, this federal union will continually slide towards a divorce.
Okay, now you talked about a conference of some sort, but we are aware that several of these conferences have been held over the years, and it doesn't look like anything really substantial is coming from these conferences to help to checkmate the security arrangement. Is that what we need now, or to put the structures in place that will tame insecurity in the country?
That is because the conferences we had before now were not backed up by what I would call sincerity of purpose.
On the part of who now?
On the part of the players, okay, and as well as on the part of the government. There must be, a sincere need and a sincere, desire on the part of the government, okay, to nip the problem, in the bud. And there must also be a sincere desire on the part of all the players that make up the federal union, to actually, provide solution, to the lingering problem and crisis, without necessarily hitting up the polity. Okay. I believe that the government must take the lead. This, it is laughable and quite unfortunate that it is the sub-national, administrators that are taking the lead at the moment, and the federal government's arms is akimbo, watching, in silence. It ought not to be.
Okay.
Section 14 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria provide very expressly that the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government and governance. And the federal government, who have a larger chunk of this responsibility, ought to take the lead in all its ramifications.
Okay.
There is need for the federal government to wake up all the resources, all the structures, gather them on a round table, and judge all on the way forward.
What do you make of some of the reactions that have trailed the establishment of this regional security outfit, beginning with the Amotekun in the southwest? A group like Mietiala accused them of setting up the outfit to witch hunt their members. What do you make of that line of reasoning?
The statement coming from Mietiala is quite unfortunate. It only tend to confirm some suspicions. Some of us that is already trending within the Nigeria political space. Some of us believe that the rampaging Fulani herdsmen are backed up by certain political elements, perhaps to accentuate and realize certain political objective. You cannot force a man who decides to wake up and put up a security outfit to protect life and property within his domain. I believe, sincerely speaking, that the first task that a man has in life is self-preservation and self-defense. Anybody who go against that certainly is anti-humanity. You cannot blame anybody or any man, wherever he is, for putting up structures to preserve his life and preserve his property. The Amotekun, emergence has become overdue, and there is need, for every geopolitical zone to begin to also look at, that direction, because the Nigeria, police force has failed us. In fact, the entire, security, architecture has failed woefully. Hence, there is need, for some form of security expediency.
Okay. Now, it looks like there's a major challenge with the coming into stream of these regional security outfits. One of them being the legal backing that is supposed to be there. Well, what do you make of that as a challenge?
I told you before that all the powers in the country are concentrated at the center. The federal government have a larger chunk of the power, if not up to about 80%. And that was why I said that the federal government have a larger responsibility in this regard. No wonder the National Assembly have woken up from slumber. You hear the statement of Ahmed Lawa as well as that of Bajabi Amila. They are already looking at that direction. Okay. I believe that very soon there will be fireworks put in place to ensure that there's some form of amendments in our laws to accommodate the emergence of some of these security outfits.
Is this not state police in disguise?
If you say so, it's, let's call it a regional police force. It may not be state police, but I'm looking at some form of regional, police outfit, coming on board, and this is coming at a time when the structure at the center, can no longer take care of our security need. You can't blame, the people who are actually looking at, this direction. I said before that the first principle of humanity is self-defense and self-preservation.
There's been recent calls for the sacking of service chiefs, is this cause, aren't they uncalled for?
It's also, very overdue.
What makes it overdue?
Overavoramel Nogbaisi, once said that all fishes eat flesh, but it is the shark that carries the blame. If the security organogram, is functioning, as expected, the security chiefs, will take the credit, but since, there's a failure in that regard, they should take the blame. And the best way to take the blame is to throw in the towel. But unfortunately, we live in a political climate where there's a sit-tight syndrome, irrespective of whether the man is working or functioning in accordance with expectation. He likes to sit on to power because of the pecuniary interest that is focused on the in the political terrain, as expected. Since they will not graciously throw in the towel, there's needs for the federal government, as it were, to sack the security chiefs. They must bow to pressure. I believe it has become overdue. Since the coming into being of the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, there have been this, security problem. Some of which he inherited. Okay. Some of which also took a new dimension
during the period. Okay.
During his stay.
Yeah.
These same persons have occupied, these offices. Some have occupied these offices for the past 4 years. Some have been there for the past 5 years, 6 years. And the problem, has not abated. It has remained with us. So the gracious thing to do is either to throw in the towel or they are removed outrightly.
What do you make of the seeming laxity on the part of South governors in responding to the issues of insecurity in the country? What do you make of it? I mean, take for example, in Edo State, Rivers State, Bayelsa State, these issues are there, but that leadership role, that collaborative role, doesn't seem to be on the front burner at the moment.
That's because it's lack of leadership. There's no rallying point. Don't forget that it was one or two governors in the Southwest, that started this initiative. At some point, they looked up to the Jagaban of Lagos State, Ahmed Bola Tinubu, to provide leadership and a sense of focus and direction. When that, leadership was not forthcoming, they had to turn to, OBG. OBG became a rally point, and eventually this whole thing, came, into emergence. So the stock of OBG is not in the South at the moment. There's seeming lack of leadership, lack of purpose, and lack of direction, and that is why there's this semi-slumber. Not until a statesman wake up from slumber and decide to take up this initiative and provide that purpose, that leadership, and that direction, South will continue in this sleep and slumber.
Would you say politics has taken over the stage in the South?
You just took the word out of my mouth.
No, I'm asking you.
you just took it out of my mouth. That's just the truth. That's the reality on ground.
Okay.
Some of the governors, are justly for a second term. While others are preparing to project, a successor. Somebody that will, take over from them. So they are a bit circumspect, being careful. They don't want to step on toes. They don't want to offend, certain persons. So, they are busy playing politics at the expense of the lives of the people.
If you just join us, it's TMI Monday. Of course, extracting some of the latest developments in the emergence of regional security outfits in the country, beginning with Amotekun in the Southwest, and then of course one sprang up in the in the north central, so specifically in Kaduna, talking about Shege, Nasafa, and Nafasa, and
Kafasa.
Kafasa, thank you. It's Shege Kafasa.
Mini Demi.
Yeah, Demi.
Demi.
Right? Okay, now, that's another major talking point. But we know that in the southeast, plans are on for a new one to emerge. Let's talk. Ogbonigwe. Okay, let's talk about the one in Kaduna, Shege Kafasa came out. The Sultan was the first person to criticize it, and then I think some other
even the Emir of Kano
also criticized it. So let's look at that. What do you make of the springing up of that, and then the criticism that trailed it?
Well, looking at the literal meaning
yes.
of Shege Kafasa, it's a direct response or reaction, to what was put up in the southwest. It's more or less like telling the Yorubas,
Demi or Deus. I see how we're going to respond.
You can't do nothing.
Okay.
Like the Benima will say that yes. I think that is exactly But however, there are certain northern leadership elements that have responded to that. They criticize it, and they are telling them to reduce the tone, that if they continue in this regard, divorce of the union become inevitable. And don't forget that the Emir of Kano once reminded the Northerners that where there's a divorce, it is the Northerners that will suffer the most. That poverty is much more dominant in the northern part of the country. So this is a time that calls for prudence. It is a time that calls for caution, and above all, it is a time that calls for wisdom. And because of the emergence of Shege Kafasa, the middle better elements are beginning to discuss. They are, at the moment, they are beginning to call themselves to the round table and see how they too, can actually also respond, to what is trendy, to that extent. Like I said before, if all the players do not come together, sit down and rekit the Nigerian federal architecture, employing the tools of subsidiarity and constitutionalism, the slide towards divorce of the union, becomes inevitable.
All right, let me say a big thanks to you, Barrister St. Michael Segwagi, for availing us some of your thoughts as far as the emergence of regional security outfits in Nigeria is concerned. I mean, it's a continuous discussion, and we hope that with what is happening now, we can actually tame the ugly tide of insecurity in the country. But my greatest concern is the fact that, take for example, Shege Kafasa as a scored. It didn't look like anything was wrong. It looks like all was okay until the southwestern governors converged and decided to take their destiny in their hands to set up a Motekun. When that was done, we saw Shege Kafasa coming into existence, which means Shege Kafasa wasn't in response to the security situation in Kaduna State, where we hear just now that another militant group was just on the verge of springing up, talking about Saru, which of course has received severe blows from the security agencies. And so does that make sense? You are not creating your own security outfit to respond to the security situations in your domain, right? But as a response to what is happening in another region. Isn't that, of course, like you say, it's an affront.
Sonny Duke, there is this awareness on the part of the northern political oligarchy that the federal architecture is deliberately skewed in favor of the north. And there is this direct attempt to preserve the existing political order. you won't blame them. This is a direct reaction, to the preservation of the extant order, which is skewed and lopsided, in their favor, not in response, to the endemic problem that is almost consuming, all stakeholders in the country at the moment. And it's quite unfortunate. That is not statesmanship. It is not, encouraging, to say the least.
All right. Thank you very much, Vice President Michael Zugwagi. It's the TMI Monday.